Today on the CTV News at 5, Lethbridge Regional Police put the call out for a man who dropped off a World War I bomb to come forward. Plus, remembering Wyatt, a popular martial arts competitor, is being remembered after his murder. And the Hurricanes gear up to take on the Hitmen.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Lethbridge Regional Police are asking the man who brought in an antique military explosive device to the police station yesterday to please contact them. Police say the device was determined to be live and it had to be destroyed at a gravel pit in the river bottom. The World War I military munition was removed from the police station by a robot and then driven to the Tollestrup construction site where it was examined by experts from CFB Suffield. Technicians confirmed the rusted metal case contained an explosive filler. It was then destroyed. The bomb was brought into the front counter of the police station just before noon on Tuesday. But the man left the building before officers had a chance to speak with him. Police are reminding the public they should call before handling or removing any old military ordnance.
If you're calling us about an unexpended ordnance that you happen to find in an old shed, in the garage, somewhere in your house, call us, let us respond to you so that we can deal with the issue on scene rather than have to deal with the issue at the police headquarters where it gets to be a big issue.
Now, police say they don't think the man had any malicious intent, and they want to assure him that he isn't in any trouble. They just want to find out where he got the device and to make sure that there aren't similar objects out there. The mixed martial arts community in southern Alberta is reeling after the stabbing death of a well-known competitor. Friends identify Wyatt Lewis as the person who died in an attack early Saturday morning in Calgary. Carrie Isles reports.
Wyatt Lewis was an expert in mixed martial arts, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a fierce competitor, but also a dear friend.
I can say with conviction that he was the rarest combination of strength and wisdom, integrity, kindness.
Lewis originally trained in Lethbridge. He stopped competing in 2008, but Lewis continued to train and even teach the sport when he moved to Calgary.
It's kind of tough on everybody here.
UFC fighter Nick Ring fought Lewis in 2003.
The kind of guy he was in the ring, he was a fierce competitor, and outside of the ring, Wyatt was the kind of guy who had a very strong sense of moral values.
Lewis died early Saturday morning after being stabbed. Police say an altercation broke out between two groups during a party at the Neville Building on 16th Avenue Northwest. Officers say they found two men suffering stab wounds. Lewis was pronounced dead in hospital.
I think these groups were out socializing during the night and end up back at this location where an argument starts and unfortunately ends with one person stabbed multiple times and another person dead.
It's shocking because Wyatt's the guy that he's always been the great mediator. You know, anybody you'll ask about him, you know, he's a mediator. If a fight would break out, he was the guy jumping in the middle saying, okay guys, take it easy, you know, like he's not that guy, and it's a real tragedy.
Carrie Isles, CTV News, Calgary.
So far, no charges have been laid. Lewis leaves behind a wife and 4 children. A trust fund is in the process of being set up for the family. Law enforcement officials took to the Alberta highways for check stops this past long weekend, and they were kept very busy. Police report over 5,200 tickets were issued across the province, everything from dangerous driving to speeding. Those charges also included impaired driving charges for those behind the wheel. Over .08 numbers on the new legislation for those over .05 are going to be released in the coming weeks. Lovely Dory Rossiter is here with the forecast. And Dory, we're going to take a temperature hit, but then things are going to change.
Yeah, welcome to southern Alberta. Wait 5 minutes if you don't like the weather, because we are going to be seeing a bit of a roller coaster ride over the next few days. You're right, though, we get down to 17 degrees for a daytime high tomorrow, but then after that we start climbing back up the scale. I'll tell you how high we climb in just a few minutes.
That's what we'd like to hear. Thanks, Dory. Well, a political scientist in Lethbridge says the outcome of the Quebec provincial election will have little short-term impact on the Canadian economy. The Parti Québécois has formed a minority government in the province, but Premier-elect Pauline Marois says that the narrow victory won't stop her from pushing ahead with her agenda. In Montreal this afternoon, she announced plans to introduce tougher language laws and abolish proposed tuition fee hikes. But U of L political scientist Jeffrey Hale says he doesn't expect widespread disruption in the foreseeable future. He says the PQ will have to negotiate point by point to get any part of their platform through the legislature. After losing the election, former Premier Jean Charest is now stepping down after 14 years as the Quebec Liberal Party leader. And the alleged suspect in a fatal shooting at the Parti Québécois Victory Party is now in a Montreal hospital undergoing a psychiatric evaluation. One man was shot dead and another wounded outside the club where the Premier-elect was giving her victory speech. Well, the shooting has put the security of premiers and party leaders across the country in the spotlight. The shooting is concerning for many politicians.
I think it's really important that we have a safe environment. And I do know that I've been at places where people are a little bit concerned. So I think it is important that we make sure that we have an environment where people can participate in the political process without risk.
Well, we told you yesterday about a Good Samaritan from Taber, credited with saving the lives of 4 girls crossing in Edmonton Street, and now the mother of one of those girls is calling the driver a hero.
You had a little guardian angel that day, huh?
Did it make you scared?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Made me really
Little
scared.
Ava O'Connor and 3 others were crossing the street near Bonnie Doon Mall on Friday. Daryl Kroshnicki was in his Hummer near the crosswalk and says he witnessed a driver using a cell phone and believes that the driver wasn't aware the children were crossing the road. With just seconds to spare, Kroshnicki steered his Hummer into the path of the oncoming Pontiac.
I could see him coming. I could kind of see what was going to happen, and I guess I just reacted.
He's a hero. He's an amazing person. I'm so glad he was there when all that happened. I believe everything happens for a reason. He was there for a reason. He saved my kid's life.
His actions, again, potentially saved the lives of some, if not all, of those children.
As you can see, the collision caused extensive damage to the truck's front end, but neither driver was hurt. Police have now charged 23-year-old John Troy Heatsman, with dangerous driving. Well, Lethbridge's legal department is once again looking into the demolition of a downtown building. A development permit on the long derelict property has expired, and officials are considering legal action to tear down the cement structure known as the atrium. A BC company came forward in January with plans to turn the site into a 3-story retail and office development. The property has been cleaned up and some structural tests have even been done, but since then, there's been no work on the project. The city could go to court and have the abandoned structure torn down at the owner's expense. When a Lethbridge couple found out their longtime neighborhood grocery store was closing, they took matters into their own hands. Cheryl Mahedin and her husband Robert have spent the summer cleaning up and renovating the old Tin Tin grocery at the corner of 10th Street and 9th Avenue South. The building dates back to 1912. The renovations include a small grocery store called Urban Grocer on the main floor with 2 apartment suites on the upper level. Mahedin says the concept of owning a grocery store wasn't really a business decision.
This has always been a neighborhood grocery from the early 1900s. I mean, there's been a few other businesses in here, but always grocery. And so when this came up for sale, we decided that we had to buy this and keep it a grocer because it would go away. It would become offices or some other type of building, and then we would never have neighborhood grocery. So it was really just a belief in the community of London Road and the neighborhood that I live in, and personally wanting to have neighborhood grocery.
Along with providing some basic grocery items, the Urban Grocer is focusing on unique products, including organics and gluten-free alternatives. An Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada research scientist from the Lethbridge Research Centre is the recipient of the Canadian Seed Trade Association and Germanization magazine's highest honor. We learn more about him in this week's Farm TV.
Dr. Surya Acharya was presented with the 2012 Canadian Plant Breeding and Genetics Award at the CSTA's 89th annual conference. Growing up in India, Dr. Acharya was interested in science from a young age.
I was interested in science, but I did not know that I would end up becoming an agriculturist, because I come from a family of judges, lawyers, you know. So That was not what I had ever thought about, but once I got into agriculture, I started liking genetics and plant breeding, so that's when everything started.
In 1989, Dr. Achiria joined the Lethbridge Research Center. Today, one of his projects is using alfalfa for pasture in a bloat-free situation. Dr. Achiria is hoping to release a variety next year.
Because the industry is really looking forward to this. They are very much enthused about getting this sandfoin out and so that they can use in their fields. The most cow-calf producers, they graze, they try to graze as much as possible, and this would help them.
Farm TV is brought to you by DA Building Systems.
And on the financial front today, the loonie closed slightly lower. Here's a look at the day's numbers.